We're sacrificing defensive players left and right, all right, for another offensive guy. Now, the A.J. Dillon thing, I actually think it's a cool signing. I thought it was a promising start to his career. He'll come in here, compete to be the second back. Hopefully he stays healthy. He's had a lot of neck injuries. But, Hugh, I know it wasn't lost on you as you joke around there that they let all the defensive players go. And
I'm not going to harp on that.
And when the first player they signed happens to be on the offensive side of the football with A.J. Dillon yesterday. So something really hit me yesterday, Hugh.
What hit you?
Well, sometimes, you ever have something obvious eventually?
It hit you like a ton of bricks?
A ton of bricks.
You mean kind of like what I was trying to tell you like 2 years ago?
No, never mind. It's not about you being right. It's about the Eagles being wrong. You're missing the point, okay? Or the Eagles at least potentially being wrong. We shall see as the next couple years play out. But here's what hit me yesterday. So we're doing the Burst Town Hall, and you kind of start lining up who they've let go, who they retained, and where all the resources are. And for the first time in a very long time, I think we can all say this together. I know we've disagreed a lot recently on the Eagles' moves, but we can all say this. The Eagles, for the first time in a long time, seem to have more monetary constraints, right? It's not just they can get over they want. They've got cap concerns now for the first time in a long time. And when you look at why, it's because they've already spent the money. They've allocated a lot of money into not just this year, but in future years. And Hugh, it's pretty obvious to me, and anyone that can pull up Over the Cap or any of these sites that list the salaries for players and where they're spending their money, Hugh, this will not surprise you, and you'll be delighted to hear it, that the Eagles for next season have $133 million committed to the offense, only $74 million to the defense. 8 of their first 9 cap hits, top 9 cap hits, are on the offensive side of the football. Yeah. 9 of their top 11. So, Hugh, this is what hit me like a ton of bricks yesterday, as we watch offensive players get new contracts the last couple of years, and defensive players that they probably want to keep, they're saying goodbye to. The Eagles have spent too much money. They've allocated too many resources. They've poured too much money into the offense, Hugh. It's come to the point where I think they have too much money on the offensive side of the football, and it's now costing them good defensive players. 215-592-9494. Have the Eagles spent too much? Have they allocated too much to the offensive side of the football? As I view this, as they're losing players on defense and they've got all the money wrapped up in offense, I think they have too much tied up on that side of the football. Hugh Douglas, I caution myself, but what do you think about this?
First of all, I am not going to do what people expect me to do in a situation like this. I'm gonna handle myself with some decorum and some dignity. I'm not gonna act like, I tried to tell y'all this like 2 years ago. I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
What I'm going to say is this. I mean, because this is simple math. When you look at the defensive side of the ball and the guys that they let go, we can make an argument about snap counts and how much they played and all this other stuff. They're expendable, and they've shown you that with the number of plays that they've played and all this other stuff. The bottom line is this. They have found a winning formula for their quarterback and his skill set, regardless of, what you feel about his numbers and everything like that. They're leaning into that. And for everybody that's worried about the Super Bowl run from last year and the way that we won, I can't think of any NFL team that has won a Super Bowl that has won it the same way 2 years in a row. You have to evolve and you have to change. Think about it like that, people. I know it's hard to do because we're in the moment and we see all these players leaving. And I get your text and I see the emails and text messages and stuff. This is not easy to do, and you have to evolve and change. And you know what? To be honest, when I saw the pickup of A.J. Dillon and I thought about this offense, I thought about how it can evolve. Now, he's been hurt, and they're taking a fly on a guy who's been oft hurt. Mm-hmm. But, when you talk about 18 touchdowns, when he's out there and he's healthy, and you talk about the ability to put him in there with Saquon and have a change of pace back with Will Shipley, and for whatever reason, when you change your running back in a game, if you're going into a game and you're game planning for one guy and another guy comes in, and they call it a change of pace back, for whatever reason, that's hard to defend for a defender, because you're used to practicing for one type of runner, and when that runner changes, it throws your defense in a tizzy. So what the Eagles have done inadvertently, they've made their offense harder to defend, because when I look at A.J. Dillon being back there. If he plays 15 or 20 snaps a game, those are 15 or 20 snaps that you have to know where he is. And if they, by any chance, put him and Saquon in the backfield at the same time and have Jalen back there as well, that's hell for a defense because that's a matchup problem. So that's what they just leaned into their offense, and they've given their quarterback, their Super Bowl MVP champion quarterback, they've given him another weapon.
Well, they have, and that was the first move they made when the new league year started was to release Slay officially and to go get an A.J. Dillon. Well, hopefully he can stay healthy and help this team. That signing is cool to me. I think it's a fun signing to add to the backfield. But what's hit me the last couple days is it's come to a head now. Like the last few years, Hugh, to your credit, you saw this coming. You saw the tea leaves. You read them. But what was different until now was it didn't seem to stop them if they wanted a defensive player, right? Like if they wanted to go get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They wanted to bring him back last year, right? They brought him back. They had the money to acquire defensive players if they wanted them. Now it feels like, because of all the commitments they made to offense, they're saying goodbye to guys that I don't even know if they want to actually say goodbye to, but the reality is they don't have money left.
Well, look at it like this. When you talk about this defense, and you talk about some of the guys that we let go, save Milt Williams, because, somebody, you're going to tell me, like I know that there's going to, not you, but I'm just saying people are going to say he played a lot of snaps. But when you look at defensive players in this day and age compared to offensive players, they're rotational guys. Never was like that when I played. And I, hate to go back in the time machine and talk about back in my day, but 60 snaps a game was what I did.
Yep.
That's how I played. Didn't come off the field. Only time I came off the field was when it was definite goal line situations. You get paid for that. Just like Jalen Carter this year, everybody's marveling at the fact that he's playing 80 snaps a game because he's that guy. Like, I can't say it to you any simpler than that, and they've identified him. He is the most important guy on the field because he's always on the field. Everybody else is interchangeable. No disrespect to Brandon Graham, but we've talked about this. Brandon likes to point out the fact that, oh, man, if you would have been in this NFL, you probably could have played longer because they take care of you. You're only playing 30 snaps a game. Think about that. Josh Sweat, 30 snaps a game. Milton Williams, probably 40 or 50 snaps a game. Jordan Davis, 12, 15 snaps a game. Like, they're getting paid good money for being rotational players, but your money is allocated to the offensive side of the ball because they never come off the field. Your offensive line gets paid because they never come off the field. Yeah, Lane Johnson plays every snap.
The lineman, quarterback, and the two receivers play probably 90 to 100%.
Durability is a huge factor in the NFL, and that's why the money is allocated to the offensive side of the ball.
I understand that. So here's my point on this. In 215-592-9494, we're going to play for you in a second something in the industry. Joe Banner said on the morning show today. Hugh, sometimes fans have like, I want it this way, I want it that way. You know what I want? I want what works. That's all I want. So if the Eagles' offense last year was number one in the NFL in every category, and their defense was 11th, 12th, 13th, then I'd be fine with this because they're getting their money's worth on the offense. That's carrying the team. What is striking to me is their defense was the best in the NFL, and they're using that as like replaceable parts. The offense, for all the money they poured into it. And I know they were at their best in the title game in Super Bowl. So if you want to call and tell me they scored 1 million points in the title game in Super Bowl, I know. We all watched it. They played their best in the biggest two games. Great. But for the whole season, that wasn't who they were. They were 11th in yards per play. They were 7th in points per game. Like, if that's who they are, they're paying too much for this offense. Now, if the offense can be great all year, then the strategy, Hugh, that you've talked about and they're doing, I think is fine. But this offense better be top 5, better be top 3, because that's where all the money is.
What if I told you, and I know it's hard for people to see, but again, I think it has to be mentioned every time we talk about this defense and what they were able to accomplish. That doesn't normally happen in a one-year setting,
right? The
way that they played, and the fact that it came together the way that it did. I think there's some factors, some intangibles in that why it happened that way that we don't know about. And I think one of them is the developmental plan that they have with Connor Barwin. I think Connor Barwin, that's a guy who has been here, has played the game, who a lot of people don't hear his name a whole lot, but he's a part of player development and helping players transition to NFL players. I think that's huge. I think that's why the Eagles have leaned into these young guys, playing these young guys more.
I think you're right. And look, it worked last year. Maybe, and it might work again, and that's the plan. And they're going to draft a lot of these guys and hope they're going to play. I just feel like they've gone too far with it. Like, if they hadn't paid one or two of these offensive guys, and to be clear, I'm not talking about Jalen. He's the quarterback. If you believe in him, you're going to have to pay him. But the Eagles have expensive players now, as if this conversation, like in this moment, double-digit millions per year or second contracts at quarterback, running back, 2 wide receivers, tight end. We'll see what happens with Goddard. Left tackle, left guard, center. Eventually, I think this offseason they'll pay Juergens, and right tackle. Meanwhile, we could barely find pennies to pay a defensive player. I mean, to me, they've gone too far. 215-592-9494. Joe Banner on this morning with the morning show talking about the Eagles.
Joe Banner.
He was. And listen, talking about the cap situation, what they can do, what they can't do at this point.
You're seeing right now they have to make some choices that they probably would prefer not to and lose some people that were still in a position that could have helped them. And going forward, it loosens back up, not all the way to where they were. It's mainly driven by the fact that they've taken the approach that they're going to always push forward cap charges, so take the lower charge now and the higher charge later, which dramatically increases your chance of having to take what in the league we would call miscellaneous charges, which is charges left for players no longer in your team.
Mm-hmm.
So as you take the risk of that, there is some price to pay. So, this year the Eagles have almost $50 million in miscellaneous charges. So the league is basically working rounding it off here at $280 million cap. The Eagles really only have $230 million to spend. That's the reason that you're seeing them need to leave. Let some players go that they prefer to keep.
Players that they'd prefer to keep that they're letting go. And why is that? Well, it's probably for a few reasons, salary cap-wise, but one of the biggest, they've allocated all the money to the offense.
Allocated all the resources.
215-592-9494. Have the Eagles put too much money? Have they tied too much money up on the offensive side of the football based on the results last year? 11th in yards per play, 7th in points per game. They better be better than that with all these defections on defense. Kyle, where do you come down? As it's funny. This morning we get. He's not saying "I told you so," but like "I told you so." He's hovering.
You should have seen him in the meeting. He was giggling. He's like, "I'm not even going to say anything."
I'm not hovering.
Yo, you're here.
I mean, I don't have to. I feel vindicated.
Well, you shouldn't, because you're going to be proven wrong when this defense takes a step back next season, and the Eagles aren't as good because of it.
Well, I'm of the mindset that they might take a step back, but I still think the Eagles are going to be good. Mm-hmm. I do, because I think that, and I understand. Because see, Kyle. This is where I understand and I respect where you're coming from, but here's the thing: they're going to be a matchup nightmare for just look at our division. They're going to be a matchup nightmare for everyone in our division.
Maybe
they were.
They were.
They might be.
But let me tell you what they've just done. And I don't know what A.J. Dillon is going to bring to the table, but he is a guy. Like, I didn't know what Saquon was going to bring to the table.
Well, okay, hold on. Can I just bring a dose of reality here to the A.J. Dillon thing?
Let me finish. Let me finish before you jump all over me.
Well, Joe asked me, so.
Well, it's because this is all the unknown, but I'm looking at it from more so than from a positive perspective.
Mm-hmm.
He adds another layer to your running game.
Well, he might.
If he's healthy.
I mean,
I could say the same thing about Saquon Barkley last year.
But hold on. Saquon Barkley is a much more talented, much more proven player than A.J. freaking Dillon, who, by the way, is coming off a season-ending neck injury last year.
Do you know what I remember?
No,
I'll let you finish. I'm sorry. You got it.
A.J. Dillon could range anywhere from LeGarrette Blount in 2017 to Rashad freaking Penny, okay? We don't know what A.J. Dillon is. I understand we want to be excited about what A.J. Dillon might add to this offense. First of all, we have a new and unproven offensive coordinator who I don't know if he's going to know how to use A.J. Dillon and Saquon in the backfield at the same time. We never have two running backs in the backfield at the same time. Like, these are not things that the Eagles do. So I don't just assume that all of a sudden we have this new awesome dimension to the offense.
You got to have vision.
But it's an unknown at this point what the offense is. I'm bracing myself for the defense to take a step back next season. And I'm not sure that the offense is ready to pick up the slack. They weren't last season. The Eagles were 29th in passing yards per game last year. And I understand that they had a great running game, but I don't just go into next season knowing how many times we gave Saquon Barkley the freaking ball that we're going to be able to replicate that. So, I just have a little bit of trepidation that the offense is going to be able to make up for what we lack on the defense. And let's be honest about what the defense is next year. They have holes now. They lost their starting corner. They lost their starting safety. They lost an edge rusher. And they lost a guy who took the second most defensive tackle snaps of anyone on the team. And they lost the guy who was supposed to replace the number one corner in Isaiah Rodgers. They have holes right now. So barring another big move to salvage this offseason on the defense, I feel like what you said, the Eagles are going to be good, and that's fine. But I don't want to just be good. I want to go back and win the Super Bowl again.
What if good is enough to get you to the Super Bowl,
It's
Kyle?
not going to be.
That's rare.
Let me tell you.
How is that
Let me tell you
happen?
what we don't know. And I'm going to tell you from a perspective from a Giants fan, because last year we had that whole thing. We went halfway, the halfway mark between Philadelphia and New York, and we had this little kumbaya moment. And I remember Giants fans telling me to a man that we weren't going to get that much for Saquon Barkley. We weren't going to get that a lot out of him because he was hurt all the time. He wasn't that guy.
Well, I didn't say that.
Well, no, I'm not. I know what you're saying, but I'm trying to draw a parallel to what you're saying and what the Giants fans were saying when we got Saquon Barkley and what they were telling me. And they were like, well, he's going to be hurt and you guys are going to regret it and all this other stuff. It's kind of the same thing we're saying about A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, but A.J. Dillon,
wait a minute, let me finish. We have to stop at the A.J. Dillon.
A.J. Dillon just missed the full season.
Let me finish. All I'm saying is this. We don't know what he's going to bring to the table.
Okay,
I'm not trying to say he's going to be the second coming of Saquon Barkley, but if he gives us more if he gives us 15 snaps a game, that's more than we had.
But that's what Kenny Gainwell gave us.
I got you. But he may be good.
What if I say he's a better runner than Kenny Gainwell?
Yeah, he might be.
But
he's a bigger back.
We don't know.
But the issue,
he's a scrap heap running back on a one-year deal.
Okay,
we have to
and
stop
what if I
this.
tell you that the change of pace back means something? Because I understand. Listen. I understand that what I'm telling you is hard for people to grasp. I get that, and I'm not trying to change your mind, but what I'm trying to tell you is this: it's not always the glass half empty. It's not
But
like that.
It's not always the glass half full either.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, Kyle, there's opportunity there for some other young guys to shine.
So you're right about those things. It could have happened that way. My issue is strategically. It's not like A.J. Dillon can't play. I liked him when he was young. Before the neck injury, he looked like he was going to be a LeGarrette Blount kind of running back. I'm cool with that.
And if you get half of that, that's still good.
My issue is that they are now losing players that, as Joe Banner said, they may want to keep because they've decided to pour all the money into the offense. And I'm sure a caller is going to say, Joe, they just won the Super Bowl. But can I also point out they won the Super Bowl, and that part of the team, the one they paid all the money to, that was the secondary part. The best part of their team last year was the one that they view as replaceable parts. And I'm like, wait a second. I get it. I understand the strategy. But if I knew this offense was going to be top 2 or 3 or 4, then I'm okay with it because then it's worth the money. Last year, they were 7th or 11th, depending on where you look for your ranking. That to me is you're paying a lot for good, not great, and now you're taking the great and you're dismantling it because you got to keep the good. 215-592-94.9. Let's take a call here, and then we'll get to everyone today. We got a lot to do. I just feel yesterday hit me like a ton of bricks. They are pouring too much of their cap room into the offense, and now we got to deal with whatever we get left on defense.